Somewhere out there, far, far away, a pagan group of engineers commence a ritual to destroy the barrier between science and magic. Don't worry, they have superglue just in case they need to put it back together again. Greetings from Duskmire. Controversy has hit in Duskmire Community High School. The Parent-Teacher Association has received multiple accounts of the Sunnytown Buttercup's parents complaining in highly whiny voices indicative of a severe and appropriately placed inferiority complex that the Duskmire Smooth cultists are a horrible caricature of other ponies' religious practices, such as the sun goddess religion of Celestianity. In response, the head of the PTA has stated, "In order to minimize the offense, our mascot is as accurate to the official robes of a member of the Order of the Smooths as possible, right down to the runic embroidery made from the mane and tail of sacrificial victims. Speaking of, some of the stitchwork needs to be reinforced." He then clasped his hooves together, and an amorphous, opaque purple gel dotted with jaundiced eyeballs began rising from his mane. This animated fluid then began to ensnare nearby parents and absorb their corporeal forms into its quivering mass. It then vanished instantly, as if reality experienced a terrible jump cut, only leaving the dimming echoes of its victims. There were no follow-up questions. As a reminder to everyone, today is the bi-monthly maintenance day, where our living quarters scrying gem antennae are all inspected to ensure that they are functioning properly. At the same time, the scrying gems for those within the appropriate age range will also be inspected, so as a refresher, here is a list of commonly observed chromatic emotions found in the scrying gem reactions. Red is unbridled fury. Green is uncontrollable jealousy. Blue is wretched sorrow. Yellow is abstract terror. Purple is the physical discomfort synchronizing with the emotional discomfort you experience when someone nearby makes an offensive comment without knowing it is offensive, and you attempt to correct them, but they realize this is not the case. Pink is romantic attraction. As a brief aside, the color light red is physical attraction. Orange is the tragic desperation that you were born as a heartless abomination that grew a heart through interaction with those whom you once thought yourself to be amongst, only to be shunned after the revelation of your personal truth because of what you are instead of being respected for who you are, thus resulting in the creation of a utopia for yourself and those like you. And finally, a glowing void-colored scrying gem reveals the psychological ecstasy you experience during the realization of how little your actions mean in your short lifespan of a few decades. This has been Community Health Tips. And now the news. Our town's recent twin immigrants, the unicorn siblings Elegant Steps and Trotcadero, have officially begun their renovations of the soon-to-be-reopened dance studio. With some cleaning, a couple exorcisms, and some tender loving care, that studio will be ready to teach young fillies and colts the lovely art of ballet prancing. Our little radio station and Her Royal Majesty's covert law enforcement are also helping out, thanks to intern Skitterflitter's custodial assistance, as well as being the very first of our citizens to sign up for classes. And if I may say so myself, they do happen to have their work cut out for them. It certainly has been a long time since the floors were dusted, and there is still some violently splattered caramel and cherry syrup left over from the previous necrotizing sucrosis epidemic. Even that goofy stallion Trotcadero is helping, although he's mostly just getting dust all over his unusually big flank. Not that I'm saying he eats too many sweets, of course. After all, a healthy-sized rump is perfect for a prancer, and most male prancers need the extra leg strength to emphasize the grace of their elegant and perfect partner's elegant poses and elegant steps. A perfectly beautiful partner, like, say, his amazingly beautiful twin sister, Elegant Steps. When asked for comment on the matter, Trotcadero stated that he wasn't entirely used to having a studio that used pendulum blades that fall from the ceiling, or ascending spikes that rise up from below the dance bar. He continued that there was a significant chance that those assistive tools would be unnecessary for their particular style of teaching. In my personal experiences of having taken ballet lessons as a young colt, I am fairly surprised that there are teaching methods in the art of prance that don't involve the standard practices of improving dance technique through penalty of fatal injury. He may have been concealing it, but my investigative skills as a radio host leave me to believe that he is going through another brief stint of culture shock. We now bring you a word from our sponsors.
Having trouble finding a nice place to take your Philly friend out for dinner?
Why not try Hey Burgers? At Hey Burgers, we can guarantee friendly service, mood lighting, and absolutely no living insects in your food. So that when you look into your lovely mare or stallions or whomever's eyes, deep into their irises to experience the existential crises of your worth in the grand scheme of the universe and how worthless it is to live life without experiencing love, your joyful tears will perfectly season your order of freshly cooked French fries. Hey Burgers! Nothing in the world may matter in the long run, but at least the burgers we serve are delicious, right? Before we continue with the update on the renovations of the local dance studio, we at Duskmire Community Radio would like to apologize for things that have been said in the past. During my previous broadcast, I had referred to members of the community with the term every pony. As an inexperienced radio announcer, I was unaware that such a term could be seen as non-inclusive to those that live here in Duskmire that do not happen to be purebred ponies. So, from now on, I will do my best to use non-species specific pronouns such as everyone, anyone, and someone, because we all believe in equality between everyone that lives here after all. Well, except for dragons, griffins, manticores, and draconici. Griffins, manticores, and draconici are all a hideous mishmash of other creatures with origins found in the dark sciences and are therefore not actually capable of sentient thought or free will, and dragons are dangerous fire-breathing flying lizards, capable of devouring everyone and everything we know and love in their perverse, avarice-filled pursuit of gold. Also, they eat gems, the city's currency. Oh, that reminds me. There is an update on the wyvern infestation that occurred last week. The last wyvern has returned from the portal that was opened by professional time-space mages appointed by Queen Lycra. What's interesting is that this particular wyvern only partially returned. Local scientists have yet to determine the exact details due to the distinct lack of flesh, but they can indeed conclude from the skeletal structure that this was the last wyvern. Also, it appears to be wearing some sort of laurel leaf circlet, made of its own digestive tract. I suppose calling it a laurel leaf circlet is a bit misleading, listeners. I apologize. I'm not sure how else to describe it. Perhaps, a sweetmeats crown akin to the traditional headwear of the High Priest of the Order of the Smooth. Possibly during the ancient volcanic resurrection ceremony performed during a full moon colored a brilliant violet via placing crystals containing slivers of horn from a Draconicus and a female and sexual equine replicant authoritarian figure. Something like that. When asked to comment, the covert law enforcement high commander said, "For some strange reason, there was a tennis ball covered in sand found in the skull of the wyvern. Not in the mouth, but where the brain would be. At first, investigators were confused as to the slight additional weight, but following up on a hunch, we cut open the skull, and there was the mysterious ball, along with the message, 'Do not enter the dog park.'" The message was written in large letters on a piece of strange leather that was later confirmed to be wyvern skin. We believe the perpetrators to be the ones that did this, and that they are also perhaps young fillies or colts, as some of the letters were written backwards. Newsflash, listeners, it appears that the Immigration Center will be opening its doors once again, as yet another newcomer has arrived in our little city, a filly by the name of Fructose Syrup. Now, I don't know if I don't know if anyone has seen her, but her mane appears at first to look like a very long series of braids, but at closer inspection, it is later revealed that they are in fact chocolate licorice. As this is one of the classic signs of necrotizing necrosis, she was taken in for genetic analysis. After the sampling implements pierced her malleable taffy flesh to take samples of her bone marrow, blood, bile, and mucus, the covert law enforcement high commander has concluded that, much like everyone else in our city, she is incredibly special. Her remarkably specific strain of necrotizing necrosis is completely benign and cannot be contracted by anyone else through contact with those particular bodily articles and fluids. Now, he is still unable to determine whether or not she could infect someone else via saliva contact, but for some strange reason he believes that this is remarkably unlikely, as the filly's teeth are currently made of caramel-flavored hard candies. "Presumably caramel-flavored," he continued. "I didn't take the samples, but the scent does lead me to think of caramel. Sweet, sweet caramel." He then began salivating with half-closed eyes before shaking himself out of it, hissing, and flying away with a soft buzz. Intern Skitterflitter added that it was unlikely she would bite anyone anyway, because she is remarkably friendly, and therefore has yet to grow out of the naive and childish thought process of trust. Update on the renovations of the newly named Gilded Ribbons Prance Academy, which will now be called as such thanks to the perfect naming sense of Madame Elegant Steps. The remaining blood and cherry syrup has been mopped away from Studio's transposition sigils, and all 12 of them have been tested to work. As an aside, listeners, the 12 transpositions of ballet are fairly straightforward. First position, second position, third position, fourth position, and fifth position, all performed on the hind legs exclusively, referred to as en deux sabots. The same 5 positions are also performed with all 4 hooves, but with the 4 legs used as well, with the positions inverse, which is known as en quatre sabots. And finally, there is en six sabots, which, well, you get the idea. The mirrors have also been polished to a perfect shine and have been confirmed by professional inspectors to not have any magical properties, such as the potential to be a swirling vortex to another universe. But they do still recommend that the mirrors are covered with the velvet curtains provided to prevent any potential incidences of ghost prancer sightings. Remember the tale of La Sylphide. If you dance with ghost prancers, then you will die a slow and pleasurable death. And that usually results in your immortal soul being tortured for all eternity by the most nefarious evil entity to ever exist in equestrian history. The Horse Devil. And now the weather. The weather remains unchanged within our protected little city, thanks to the mystical argyle-colored dome that conceals it from prying eyes and horrible ponies, griffins, dragons, and whatever else might judge us because of our species. Or individuality insignias. Or lifestyle choices. Well, except for the pet rain cloud that is currently owned by Leafy Greens, you know, the grocer. This is allowed not only because the rain cloud is specifically used to keep his stock of vegetables and edible mosses properly moistened, but also because the cloud is only half a meter in diameter. Speaking of things that are normally higher up than 3 meters, have you ever seen those tiny glowing dots in the night sky, far beyond that magical barrier that stops dangerous strangers from invading our city and committing acts of physical assault and espionage? Those things are called stars. They are gigantic balls of burning gas and matter, and are specifically designed to reflect ocular magic toward any number of locations. Like, say, a city filled with unfortunate misfits that are treated terribly because of circumstances mostly, if not completely, out of their control. And why would they want to do that, you ask? Because they all think that we can get along? Of course not. It's because they think that we should act like them, always happy and giggling like insipid school fillies and chattering about candy and rainbows. This is wrong, not only because candy is only allowed to be legally licensed adults, and Her Royal Majesty's covert law enforcement, but because rainbows are the work of the Horse Devil, a clever disguise to lure you into a false sense of security. This has been Full Fun Fact Science Corner. Well, there is now an update on the current status of Rising Loaf, the overly inquisitive stallion who may or may not have unintentionally spoken ill of our queen. He has just been released from his stay at the Reducation Spire, his limbs wobbly and shaky, and a small but pronounced scar just above his white eyebrow where there was once no scar. Under escort by a softly hissing covert law enforcement agent, Rising Loaf officially apologized for his unintended offense toward Queen Lycra. Sometimes some ponies need to have emotional support after a grueling time at work, and the High Commander was more receptive to your emotional needs than I was. For my lack of observation, I am very sorry, my queen. He then generated to her, and as a reward, he was allowed to repeatedly kiss our queen's forehooves for 45 minutes. Unfortunately for him, though, the local bakery and Sugar Cube Corner combo store was taken over by Golden Brown, the richest pony in town. But that's just fine, because he's just so wealthy. His mere presence in the city changed it into a city from when it was once a small town, and this all resulted in our everyday use of gems as currency instead of equestrian bits. And all you mares out there will be happy to know that he is single. And he is most definitely straight. Don't ask how I know that. And now another word from our sponsors. Goodness, I should fix that. A dark chamber. The soft echo of hooves on rock awakens you. You find yourself chained to a wall in a dark cave. As your eyes adjust to the darkness, you can finally note your surroundings. There are chains to your left and right, no longer being used, as the rust appears to tell a story of its lifetime. But as you look around to the walls themselves, you rethink your estimate of it being rust, as the red-orange color matches that of multiple scrawled messages of abstract suffering and punctuated with smudged hoof prints. A door creaks open, and a large pony appears. His face is fully concealed, and this is only an educated guess at the figure's gender, only supported by the remarkably large satchel it wore on its back, each side holding an entire trough. The left one is lowered, and a lever is pulled. The chains give slack, but do not release you. You run over to the foul-smelling slop bucket and devour the meal of gristle and fungi. Daisy chains. It beats incarceration by a serial killer. Well, it looks like it's about time to go for the day, but first, another letter to Queen Lycra. Today, the letter is sent in by... they only left a black smudged hoof print. Well, luckily, one of the many perks of being a radio host is having access to all public records of each and every citizen in the city in such occasions as this. And here we are. Yes, this match is right here from the hoof print, saying that this is from Little Lavender. Dear Queen Lycra, today I learned that it's very important to listen to every pony older than me. I wanted to tell my friend that lives outside of Duskmire that I am... Well, this small part here I guess I'll just skip over. But when I told him that I am... he got scared. Very scared. He ran away, and his mommy and daddy began throwing knives and pitchforks and logs at me. I ran home and hugged my guardian surrogate really tight, and she buzzed my favorite instrumental song and rocked me gently. From now on, I'll always listen to you and every pony else. Oh, goodness, how terrible! Well, don't you worry, hun. Thanks to the scrying gem, Her Royal Majesty's covert law enforcement agency saw the entire thing. They're getting a firm talking to as we speak. Or, they're screaming in terror as they're being drained of all emotional qualities and left to rot as apathy-filled husks. Either or. But that doesn't mean that two wrongs always make a right. They only make a right when that second wrong is performed by the proper authorities, like police ponies or lawyers. Even though we all have been bullied for being special in our own ways, despite being told that being special is a good thing, well, we were apparently special in the wrong way. But our queen respects our specialness, no matter how strange that specialness might be. For the sake of examples, I will now list off a few friends of mine that have already informed me that they are comfortable with me sharing those examples on the air. Here's one. My roommate, Glimmering Gleam. He is a crystalline pony whom is translucent, save for his heart, blood vessels, and major bodily organs. Should he be shunned due to his unique condition, that he might look some sort of strange, hideous beast with his exposed organs? Of course not. Should he be mocked because his entire body glows the same color as his scrying gem to expose his every emotion and possibly his very thoughts? Not at all. But we should respect his privacy and not peek into his memories, thoughts, and visually exposed internal organs. Only our queen is allowed to do any of that, as she is the proper authority figure. Speaking of, there's also my next-door neighbor, the lovely Lady Split-Screen, whom is engendered in a rather unique way, with his left side being female, her right side being male, and both being perfectly symmetrical, resulting in a remarkably beautiful androgynous physical appearance. I believe the scientific term for this state of being is vertically bigendered. Oh, also, to clarify for those who do not know this fairly important piece of information, he does prefer to have her gender pronouns alternate from one to the other whenever one is used in reference to him indirectly. I will admit that for some of us it may be a little bit difficult to do this for her, but I do believe that we all can do our best in this regard. After all, we all should respect his needs for a sense of self-identity, and we want to make her comfortable and welcome in our city. Also, as an expression of respect to his personal self-image and emotional well-being. Even I myself have my own unique personal qualities that many may seem as some sort of strange absurdity. But at present, I am not comfortable discussing these things at this time. So, I'm afraid you'll have to wait and find out more about myself during Honesty Day, the second day of Census Week, which is... Actually, according to the community calendar, it is coming up fairly soon, within the next couple of months. That's rather exciting. But, as tradition states, I will not be allowed to produce any new episodes during the Census Week as a whole. I would only be allowed to do so during Open Life Day. That would be when I am allowed to summarize the events of the Census Week as a whole. Stay tuned next for a soft moan emanated from the throat of the covert law enforcement agent whom has a crush on you. No, not all of you, but just you specifically. Yes, you. The one listening right now. Good night, Duskmire, and good morrow.